New pain, that's a quarter of profit. I'm strapping in the longest. But a new bag makes a new mission. New pad, so I trap in a new kitchen. Sawing the dew glisten.
Hello everyone, and thank you for being here. Today, I want to talk about something most of us take for granted: corn. It's easy to overlook it in your popcorn, your cereal, your tortilla chips, but corn plays a critical role in the global food supply. So what would happen if the world ran out of corn? Corn isn't just a side dish or snack. It's a staple food for billions of people. In Latin America, corn is a foundational ingredient used in tortillas, tamales, and countless traditional meals. In Africa, maize porridge known as ugali, sadza, or nsima is a daily staple. Even in developed countries, corn is everywhere, often hidden in processed foods as cornmeal, cornstarch, or high fructose corn syrup. It's also used to make baby food, cereal, and cooking oil. Corn is cheap, versatile, and energy-dense, making it vital to feeding large populations. Now imagine corn disappears. Suddenly people in Mexico can't find tortillas. In Kenya or Malawi, families lose access to their main source of daily calories. Even in countries that don't eat much corn directly, the shock would be felt. Why? Because corn is also deeply embedded in the global food economy. If corn goes away, the demand for other staples like wheat, rice, or potatoes would skyrocket. Prices would spike. That affects everyone, not just corn-eating countries. Poorer nations, where people already spend most of their income on food, would suffer most. We could see widespread hunger, rising malnutrition, and social unrest. And the disruption wouldn't stop at food. Corn is also a major feed for livestock, especially chickens, pigs, and cows. No corn feed means less meat, milk, and eggs, pushing protein prices higher and making them unaffordable for millions. Processed foods would also take a hit. From corn syrup in soft drinks to corn-based thickeners in soups and sauces, manufacturers would scramble for alternatives, driving up costs and slowing production. Government food aid programs, school meal plans, and refugee support systems would all face new challenges as prices rise and availability drops.
Corn isn't just a crop, it's a cornerstone of global food security. A major shortage or disappearance of corn would be a global crisis, affecting diets, economies, and even political stability. That's why protecting our corn supply, from climate change, pests, and overdependence, is more important than ever. It's not just about saving corn, it's about saving lives, ensuring nutrition, and maintaining global stability. Let's talk about how a corn shortage would devastate animal feed supplies and shake the foundation of livestock farming. Corn isn't just food for people, it's food for animals. In fact, over 60% of global corn production goes to feeding livestock, mainly cows, pigs, and chickens. Why corn? Because it's cheap, calorie-dense, easy to grow, and provides the energy animals need to grow fast and stay healthy. In massive feedlots and factory farms around the world, corn is mixed with soy and vitamins to create carefully balanced feed. This system supports not just meat, but also eggs, milk, cheese, and butter, all essential sources of protein in modern diets. So, what happens if corn disappears or becomes too expensive? Farmers would face an immediate crisis, they wouldn't be able to feed their animals affordably, they'd either have to reduce their herds or switch to more expensive or less efficient feed alternatives, this means fewer animals being raised, longer times to reach market weight, and higher production costs. The result? A sharp decline in meat, dairy, and egg production, especially in large-scale operations where corn is a central ingredient. Consumers would feel it quickly. Prices for chicken, beef, pork, milk, and even pet food would rise sharply. Protein-rich diets would become harder to afford, especially in low-income countries. But the impact doesn't stop at farms or grocery store shelves. Restaurants, school cafeterias, and food banks would all face shortages and higher prices. Families might shift away from animal products altogether, not by choice, but by necessity. This shift would also affect farm economies. Regions that depend on livestock production, like the US, Midwest, parts of Europe, Brazil, and Southeast Asia, would see economic downturns, job losses, and increased pressure on land and water use. Additionally, small-scale farmers, especially in developing countries who can't afford alternative feed sources, might be forced to abandon livestock altogether, a global corn shortage would trigger an animal feed crisis, leading to a drop in meat and dairy production, spiking food prices, and hitting both consumers and producers hard. This issue highlights how deeply interconnected our food systems are, and how much we rely on a single crop to feed not just ourselves, but the animals that sustain us. Solving this means diversifying animal feed, investing in sustainable farming practices, and preparing for future disruptions caused by climate change or supply shocks. While many think first about food, another critical area would take a hit: biofuel, specifically ethanol, one of the world's most widely used renewable fuels. Corn is more than a food crop, it's a fuel source. In countries like the United States, Brazil, and parts of Europe, corn is a major ingredient in the production of ethanol, a type of biofuel that's blended into gasoline to reduce emissions and extend fuel supplies. In fact, in the U.S., roughly 40% of the corn crop goes directly into ethanol production. Ethanol isn't just about energy, it's part of the strategy to reduce dependence on fossil fuels, improve air quality, and fight climate change. So, what happens if the world faces a corn shortage? The impact on the biofuel sector would be immediate and severe. Ethanol production would plummet, especially in the US and Brazil, where corn and sugarcane are the main sources. Fuel suppliers would lose a critical blending ingredient, leading to higher demand for traditional gasoline. This would increase fuel prices for drivers, truckers, airlines, and public transportation systems. The energy sector would scramble to find alternatives, but building new biofuel supply chains from other sources like switchgrass or algae would take years, not months. The ripple effects would spread far and wide. Countries that rely on corn ethanol to meet their climate commitments under agreements like the Paris Accord could fall behind. Carbon emissions might rise as more pure fossil fuels are burned. There's also the economic angle. Thousands of jobs in the ethanol industry, from farmers to factory workers, would be at risk. Fuel-dependent industries like logistics, delivery services, and air travel would see costs spike. And there's a geopolitical angle too. Countries that import oil to make up for lost ethanol would become more dependent on oil-rich nations, potentially destabilizing energy markets and trade relations. So, while corn may seem like a simple crop, it plays a critical role in powering the world, not just feeding it. A major corn shortage wouldn't just cause food insecurity, it would also trigger a biofuel crisis, driving up fuel prices, increasing emissions, and shaking energy markets across the globe. This is why diversifying our fuel sources, investing in alternative biofuels, and protecting crop yields from climate change are no longer optional, they're essential.
Is in far more things than you might expect, and without it, entire industries could be thrown into chaos. Let's start with a simple truth. Corn is not just food, it's a foundation of modern manufacturing. Corn is used in thousands of products, from processed foods to pharmaceuticals, plastics, cosmetics, and even textiles. Just think. Corn syrup is in soft drinks and baked goods. Cornstarch thickens soups, sauces, and candy. Corn is used to make packaging materials, adhesives, batteries, and even diapers. So when corn disappears, it's not just farmers and grocers who feel it, it's entire supply chains. Here's where the dominoes start to fall. First, food manufacturers lose a cheap, reliable ingredient. That means many processed foods like cereals, snacks, frozen meals, and drinks either stop production or become much more expensive. Then, non-food industries get hit. Companies making plastics, biodegradable packaging, and even makeup suddenly face shortages or higher costs for corn-based materials. That disruption travels up the chain to affect retailers, wholesalers, and eventually consumers. You see fewer products on shelves, prices rise, and in some regions, certain goods may disappear completely. But it doesn't stop there. Without corn, companies shift to other materials, like wheat, rice, or petroleum-based inputs. That puts pressure on other crops and resources, driving up global demand and prices across the board. Suddenly, it's not just corn-based products that are expensive. Now bread, pasta, and even plastic containers cost more because everyone's chasing the same alternatives. Meanwhile, transportation costs rise due to increased demand on trucking, shipping, and storage, especially as companies rush to find new suppliers. Even jobs are at risk. Factories may lay off workers due to material shortages. Farmers lose contracts. Exporters miss shipments. This is what we call a supply chain domino effect, a disruption in one area causing shockwaves throughout the entire system. So, what's the takeaway? A global corn shortage would do more than reduce what we eat. It would ripple through industries, disrupt economies, and impact everyday products we all rely on. This shows us how fragile and interconnected our global supply chains truly are. If we want to prepare for future disruptions, whether from climate change, pests, or geopolitics, we need to build more resilient, diverse systems that don't rely so heavily on a single crop like corn. Thank you for listening.